We are live. We are live. It's me, Dr. Frita. And guess what? It's Monday. And you know what that means? It's Medical Monday. So we're about to get into all of the hot health topics in the headlines. We're going to talk about Diddy, P. Diddy, Puffy. This is how it relates to health. Allegedly, he was having a hunger strike in his incarceration. Apparently, reportedly, he thought that maybe people were trying to poison him. So, we always take the headlines and we flip them into health topics that can help us. So we'll talk about what happens in a hunger strike and when the body undergoes starvation and some of the dangers of refeeding too quickly and not efficiently. And then we'll talk about Lizzo because she's clapping back as usual. She has had a recent weight loss and people have accused her of doing either Ozempic or Coke. And I don't mean the soda. So, she went off. So we'll talk about Lizzo. We'll talk about living with obesity. We'll talk about weight loss and we'll do all of those things. And then we'll talk about a medical mix-up. Listen, do y'all check your medical bills? Because there was a big medical mix-up that led to a $100,000 bill. We'll get into that. And then we'll talk about Selena Gomez. Y'all know Selena Gomez. Well, she's been very open about her diagnosis with lupus, kidney disease, and now she's sharing a new mental health diagnosis that she's been living with. You don't want to miss that. Lastly, we'll talk about C-sections. Why? Because C-sections can be associated with more mortality in women giving childbirth. And guess who gets more C-sections than anyone else? Black women. So stay tuned. Afterwards, we're going to have a live Q&A. Ooh, and if you're a member, we're going to have a members only Q&A after this Medical Monday. We'll talk about it, but go ahead and hit that like button as we get started. Today is Medical Monday. All right, come on in here. We're live. So let's go ahead and get started with all of these hot health topics in the headlines. My co-host, Shador, and my practice manager, come on to the front of the stage. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Dr. Frita?
Doing well. We had a whirlwind of a week last week. How did you fare during the hurricane?
You fared pretty well. I was expecting some creeks to swell over. They did not in my area, but some people were not as fortunate.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people weren't as fortunate. And we're seeing that the death toll is going up and up in some places that we didn't expect, right? Because it changed course. Mm-hmm. I know we've got problems in Asheville, in Charlotte, Savannah. Some people lost their lives in my mama's hometown in Alamo, Wheeler County, Glenwood. And so definitely our prayers are going up for all of you who suffered loss during Hurricane Helene. For me, well, Shador, you know this, the kids were out for fall break last week, but we ended up needing to go to get my oldest daughter, my college freshman, from FAMU. They had to evacuate from Tallahassee because it hit at like a category 4, I believe. So thankfully she was safe. And then we ended up, she was still able to play. The FAMU got invited to play at the NFL game here at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the Falcons versus the Saints. They played the halftime show. I thought that was a great honor for FAMU's Marching 100 to be invited. Oh, so for everyone listening, if you go over to my Instagram at dr.frita, I did a post of the whole whirlwind of a week that I had in my household last week, including, a couple of highlights from the marching band. So that's on a positive note. But on some other notes, Shador, on some health notes, let's go ahead and jump into some of these health topics. Let's start with Lizzo. Y'all know Lizzo is always clapping back. Y'all keep talking about her. She keeps telling y'all off. But now she's been really working out. She's had quite a successful weight loss, going towards her health journey. But now people are asking if she's doing Ozempic or if she's doing Coke. And Lizzo doesn't appreciate it. So let's go ahead and roll that clip, Shador.
The fact that you would even discuss my looks is insane. I'm a bad always been a bad.
Lizzo is speaking out after fans speculated that she used Ozempic to lose weight. The singer took to Instagram on Friday to shut down rumors that she took a popular weight loss medication as she posted a video using a viral TikTok sound with on-screen text that read, "When you finally get Ozempic allegations after 5 months of weight training and calorie deficit."
It's like a reward.
The video was included in a post with selfies of the singer, as well as screenshots of her calling out a fan who commented on a previous post, "Did she use Ozempic or did she snort coke?" To which she responded, "Why do you follow me?" The Grammy winner also referenced the same fan as she wrote as the caption for her Instagram carousel, "Ozempic or coke, a fan," alongside a few crying face emojis. The same day, Lizzo posted a video of her working out at the gym and tagged a celebrity trainer.
Summer's over. We're wearing fall looks to the gym. That's Yitty off the shoulder sweatshirt. Those are Yitty leggings. That's a Yitty bra. We look good. The pockets are deep, literally and figuratively. Look at those abs. Somebody called me skinny on the internet. I said, where? If anything, I am thick, fat and thick. That is FHICK. Anyways, let's get into this workout. I don't know what any of these moves are called. I'm exhausted just looking at it. I love a heavy rope though.
A few days earlier, the 36-year-old showed off her weight loss transformation in a video which used another popular TikTok audio of Nicki Minaj, where she says, "The fact that you would discuss my looks is insane. I'm a bad bitch, always been a bad bitch." Lizzo wrote for the video's caption, "Fine both ways."
The fact that you would even discuss my looks is insane. I'm a
Okay.
always been a bad.
Y'all know. Now, full disclosure, yes, I'm a Lizzo fan. You know, I went to a Lizzo concert, and let me tell you, she put on a concert, and then her background dancers, those girls were all thick, many living with obesity. They could drop down to the ground, do splits, do all the things. So I want to ask this to those in the chat. Put a 1 if you think Lizzo is telling the truth, that she's not currently on Ozempic. Put a 2 if you think that she is lying, and then she's either, you know, on Ozempic or doing snorting something. So 1 if you believe Lizzo, 2 if you think that she's not telling the truth. And meanwhile, Shador, who was the first person in our chat today?
First person today is Planet Life. Hello.
Hello, Planet Life. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you here. So yeah, it's just amazing, and it's very difficult. And I say oftentimes, you know, I am board certified in obesity medicine, and what I find, and I've heard other people say the same thing, it seems like obesity is the last acceptable form of discrimination, right? People can criticize someone from being, you know, living with being overweight or with being obese, and then they can hide behind saying, "Oh, I'm just concerned about your health. Oh, I just want you to be healthy," when really they're just being mean, right? And so we know that Lizzo tends to wear clothing, you know, that are scantily clad, and that some people will criticize her and say that, you know, she's too big or too loose to be wearing the clothes. And so being quote unquote big girl is a part of her brand, which becomes challenging for her because she also wants to be healthy, but anytime she loses weight, then she seems to get a lot of criticism as well, which some may consider this criticism. She's losing the weight and they're not giving her any credit for all the exercise that she's doing. And so, you know, it can be a bit tricky. But according to Lizzo, she's lost the weight doing the exercises, which she couldn't name, as she said, which I thought was pretty funny. And, you know, she's doing it the natural way. Does that mean that she's never, ever tried Ozempic? I don't know. But, you know, for Ozempic to be getting the credit for weight loss, she would need to be on it, doing the once weekly injections, increasing it, you know, doing the Ozempic or the Mounjaro. So for anyone who's listening, if you are on Ozempic or on Mounjaro or Zepbound or something of that nature, if you have questions or you wonder, I definitely do prescribe these medications when needed. And I strongly recommend that if you're on one of these weight loss medications, specifically the weight loss shots, like the GLP-1 agonist that I'm discussing, make sure you consult a medical professional, consult with your physician, because there are definitely some complications. There's some complications that can occur. But if you're on the medication under the supervision of a physician, a lot of those complications can be completely avoided, and they're certainly less likely. Make sure that you watch my video right here on this YouTube channel, where we are up to over 775,000 subscribers, the Dr. Frita YouTube channel that you're on right now. Click on the video where I talk about Ozempic. You know, is it too risky or is it the holy grail? And I go through some of the details there. And let's see. And as far as exercise, now Lizzo wasn't naming the exercises that she was doing, but I also have a video that just recently released within the past couple of weeks, 10 exercises to help you to lower your blood pressure the natural way. And in that video, I actually shared the #1 exercise found in this large study of over 270 scientific exercise and high blood pressure studies. I found the #1 set of exercises for lowering blood pressure. So check those out. All right. Do we have any 1s for people who believe Lizzo and any 2s who say that she is not telling the truth?
Yeah, we got a couple of twos, several ones. So we'll shout out a couple of ones. First from Duchess.
Hi, Duchess.
DP.
Hi.
And Delicia. 111.
So they all believe Lizzo. And I'll tell y'all what I think afterwards. Okay. And then who doesn't believe Lizzo? I want to know. Come to the front. Who thinks Lizzo's making it up?
Warren.
All right, Warren.
And
did anyone give a reason on why they think she's making it up?
No one gave a reason, Dr. Frita.
Yeah.
Tracy says who cares? She looks good.
Oh, now probably with you, Tracy, who cares? Because it's so annoying that it's any of our business, because it's actually not our business. Again, here I talk about everybody's business, but of course we know that we're doing it in order to promote health, to give us our healthiest, happiest lives. But I actually believe Lizzo, and I'll tell you why. She's so painfully honest about everything else, even things that we do not ask her, that I just don't see where she would have any shame in saying, hey, I use Ozempic and I also work out and I exercise. Oh, or I use Ozempic, but I don't use it every, week, or I don't use it every month. I have used it. Like, I just think she would tell us, and I think it's frustrating that she's in there clearly working hard and really trying. And she says she's done a calorie deficit. I think she's just frustrated, and I personally believe her. I think she's a truth teller, but that's me. I have my bias. All right. So now let's move on to the next story. And as we do, I want you to comment if you've ever received a medical bill that was not accurate. Okay. Because in this next story, we have someone who was a part of a medical mix-up, and it ended up with the person being billed a $100,000 medical bill. Now, how's that for a healthcare mess? Let's go ahead and roll that footage.
Treatments for heart problems have racked up more than $200,000 in medical bills for a DeKalb County man charged to his health insurance. The problem is, it wasn't him. Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray with us today. So Justin, the family called you because even after they thought this was all sorted out, it started happening again.
Yeah, Justin, the first sign of a problem was a nurse calling to see how Richard Adams was doing after surgery. He didn't have surgery.
I mean, I went to school and worked with more than one Richard Adams.
It's a personal identity mix-up that Richard Adams and his wife Kimberly say is a financial and health risk for Richard and whoever is getting medical treatment as Richard.
You're paying for services that my husband did not receive. And, then now this other person's medical records have been intertwined with his.
It first happened last year. More than $200,000 in heart treatment, surgery, and hospital stays charged to this Richard Adams Aetna insurance. A nurse even called to check on how Richard was doing.
She told me the dates, and I said, no, ma'am, he couldn't have because he was at dialysis on those days.
That's because this Richard Adams has kidney problems, not heart problems. And it's not just the bills being mixed up. Records are too.
We're trying to get him on the kidney transplant list. And they started saying, well, we need to talk to you about this stent you have in your heart and this implanted defibrillator. And he's like, I don't have either of those.
And what concerns the Adams now is that after going back and forth for months with the insurance company and hospitals thinking it was finally sorted out, it started happening again this summer. Thousands of dollars more in charges for Richard Adams for a stay at St. Mary's Hospital in Athens. Richard says he hasn't even been to Athens in 25 years.
You have to provide your insurance card and your driver's license when you get medical care anywhere.
Oh my goodness, that is a complete mess. In the chat, if you've ever had a medical mix-up or gotten a bill from someone, please go ahead and share that. Shador, that's a mess. Now, of course, Shador, as my practice manager, you're dealing with everyone's sensitive information. Can you imagine sending someone the wrong bill with all of their detailed diagnosis? That's personal information. And what if they have an infection they don't want you to know? What if they've had a sexually transmitted infection, or if they have something that's chronic? Either way, it's their business. So we have a HIPAA violation, a financial violation. That's just a mess, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, Dr. Frita. And as you know, I have an identical twin, similar names. So, I've had mix-ups where they've put her medications up under my explanation of benefits, or said I had diagnosis I didn't have, gave me the wrong eye prescription. Total nightmare. So I can only imagine.
That is amazing. And so that's happened with your identical twin, which y'all are twins, but y'all don't have to share all of each other's business. So that's definitely still a violation of your privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in his case, this is something that's for him in particular, the young man who's a kidney patient. And of course, for any of our new listeners who don't know, I am a board certified nephrologist, meaning I am a kidney doctor and I'm a high blood pressure doctor. And so the patient who was here was saying that he's a kidney patient and he's on the transplant list. He's trying to get a kidney transplant. Well, here's the issue. With that mix up, they said that he had a heart defibrillator, right? Which is a sign of a very serious heart condition, that he had a heart stent, which is when something is put into the heart arteries to open them up. When you're getting a transplant, they want to make sure that you're healthy enough to sustain the surgery. And if you have a defibrillator or a very serious heart condition, that could cause you to be denied the transplant. So not only are they messing with his money, not only are they messing with his privacy and violating HIPAA, well, now they are possibly preventing him or delaying him from getting a life-saving kidney transplant. So this problem is very deep. It's very deep. Yeah. And for those of you who want to know more about kidney disease, make sure that after you finish watching this live, that you check out my videos on kidney disease. If you go to my playlist, I talk about CKD stages, I talk about dialysis, I talk about all of it. So as I'm going to ask you if anyone has commented on any medical mix-ups, make sure y'all, as you come in here, make sure you give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and share this video. Share this video. Go ahead and click that link. Share it in your group chat, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it with the people you care about, because we're giving evidence-based information. And we're going to get into the Diddy situation where we'll talk about the more health issues related to Diddy. And don't forget, we have a live Q&A here, just, a few questions after this live. But after that, after this Medical Monday ends, our members only, we're having a members only live where we'll spend the entire time just answering your questions. You can interact with us live. We'll do a full question and you'll get a chance to have, a little more personable time, and I'll get to your questions after this. So if you haven't already, make sure you click the link in the description to become a member. For that, I have members only content, which right now I have several videos up where I give you, extra content, extra medical content, and just, some entertaining things. You get first look at a lot of the videos also before I release them to the public. So some videos are members only and will stay members only. Okay. Other ones, you'll get the first look before I release them. And then you get some, loyalty badges, custom emojis, and of course, our monthly members only live Q&A, which we're having today after we finish this Medical Monday. All right. So has anyone shared, do they know of anyone who's had a medical mix up? I hope not. I hope not. Oh, they have? Who? What do we have?
Duchess.
Hi,
says,
Duchess.
I received a medical bill. They added services they never rendered, and they used incorrect CPT and ICD-10 codes. I contacted them, and the balance was wiped clean.
See, so Duchess, imagine had you not been paying attention, right? Or imagine if you are someone and, you just don't pay attention. You pay the bill. It doesn't affect your ability to live or pay your other bills. And so you don't really pay attention. Well, now, not only have you gotten an incorrect bill, but you also have things on your medical record that don't necessarily pertain to you. So I'm glad you were able to get it wiped clean, Duchess, and I hope that it was a mistake and not someone just being greedy and doing incorrect codes. Right. Okay. Anyone else?
Sheree shared. Hey, Sheree.
Hi, Sheree. Welcome back.
She says, not a bill, but got an appointment in my name for a doctor I don't know who I found to be in another state.
See, now that's scary too. I didn't think about that because guess what? If you were a no-show to this appointment that wasn't yours in another state, well, now you might get billed, right? A no-show fee, which you'll have no idea about. And then that might go on your credit and you're sitting up here trying to buy a new home, buy a new car with a ding on your credit for something that is not yours. So that's like a cautionary tale to all of us. Make sure you check and double check your bills. Okay.
Yeah, and Monica wanting to share.
Hi, Monica.
She says, once I asked for my son's neonatal medical records, as I was going through them, there were a couple of forms with another child's name.
Now, let me tell you, Monica, as a mother who's had twins, 2 babies in the NICU, I know what those bills are. So both of my twins had breathing tubes down their mouths. They had intensive care in the NICU. And so those bills can be extensive. So if you have another neonatal bill, that could be a lot of extra dollars to your child's name. And again, a misdiagnosis. So yeah, so thank you all for sharing, because that just reminds everyone, check your bills. You know, it would be nice if we could just blindly trust, but we can't always do that.
Mhm.
All right. So let's move to our next story. This next person is an artist whom I really have a lot of respect for. And not only because she's a talented person, she's a very talented person, but because she's living with a lot of challenges, a lot of health challenges, and it's not obvious, which is a reminder that not all health challenges are obvious. Not all disabilities are obvious, you know, so we got to make sure that we're sensitive and we show people grace. But before I get into this story, you know, I was sharing on this weekend on, you know, everything that I was going through and getting my child from the hurricane and everything, and how FAMU, I reminded you, played for the Falcons game. Well, while I was there, I just really want to give a shout out to someone who worked at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Her name is Alethea. She was one of the people with the blue shirt. She was a supervisor for one of the section. She helped my child find the FAMU buses and connect. And very importantly, I needed her help with something at the stadium. She didn't ask a whole lot of questions. She jumped into action. And so a shout out to Alethea. If anyone knows an Alethea who works for Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that one right there is going to heaven. Anyway, just want to throw that in there. All right. So Selena Gomez is who I'm talking about. So we've talked about Selena Gomez here before because she is someone who's living with lupus, and she also has had kidney disease and has received a kidney transplant. Well, now she's sharing that she has yet another diagnosis. She's sharing it in the documentary. So let's go ahead and see what Selena Gomez is living with.
Wait, you want to just hold you and you want to cuddle, because you're very open about everything in the documentary, about your health, about the highs and lows. It's not like some depressing, it's a lot of things, all the emotions. But I thought that it was really cool that you were so open about, I mean, having lupus, about bipolar disorder, about going to speak. What was that like? Speaking
that
at the
was
hospital?
amazing. I went to the McLean Hospital, and it's one of the best hospitals for they're kind of covering everything in the mental health space. And so I was able to say my diagnosis out loud for the first time. And it gave me such strength, and it wasn't easy. And I think that's why I wanted the documentary to feel really personal. But I'm kind of scared. Like, a lot of people are going to see this whole other side of me, and I'm like, hope they like it.
I think it's refreshing. I think it's nice because it's such a filtered world. Like, and we're different generations, so it's just like I feel like your age and younger, like it's just such a different world where everybody filters everything online, and that's not life. That's not real life. Like, everybody has things,
Yes.
right? And I just thought it was very powerful, like, to not know what was happening with you, but you knew something was wrong. You sought out help, and you got it, and that's going to help so many people that watch this.
I hope so.
Yes, whether it's depression or whatever, anxiety, like whatever, it's like, it really does. You watch it and you go, okay, wait, I do vibe with that. Like, that's similar to me. So it's gonna, I think, awaken a lot of people.
I hope so, because I'm really nervous.
Was it nervous for you? Because right after you spoke at that hospital, all those people, like, afterwards, like, talking to you. Do you ever feel the weight of that? Like, when they're telling you their story? Because I feel like a lot of people will tell us things that maybe they should put, like, someone that's trained that knows what to say back. Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely not a professional, but it was really, I think I'm more so connect with people that have been on a similar journey. And I don't mind having those conversations with people. Again, anything that I do, I want it to be some sort of light in the world. So
yeah,
I'm excited that people will get to see, how much it paid off, to be honest with my story.
Selena Gomez has been through a lot. She has been through a lot. I want y'all in the chat, as we get ready to talk about Selena Gomez, I appreciate her for sharing all of her diagnoses, and specifically this one about living with bipolar disorder. But if you know of any other celebrities who've come out and been open about having bipolar, go ahead and put their names in the chat. If it's someone that I have heard of myself, and I'll confirm it. If not, then this is a disclaimer, and I'll let you know that I don't know of that one to be. But if you can name any. And the reason that I like this, when celebrities share, is that it helps to take the stigma off, right? Because when we hear about other illnesses like cancer, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, you name it, we don't laugh, right? We have sympathy, right? But when it comes to mental diagnoses, somehow we're a little behind, almost like what I said about obesity, it being the last acceptable discrimination. I still feel that people joke around a lot and they'll be like, oh, child, she bipolar, for someone who's not actually bipolar. Or if they're having a day where they're just kind of really off, they'll be like, oh, I'm bipolar today, making light of it, even though it's a very real diagnosis. But I feel like the more that we know that people we look up to, people who are talented, people we respect, the more we know that they are living with the diagnosis and they come forward, I think it just makes it easier for the stigma to go down. And if the stigma goes down, then people are going to be more likely to get help. So if you know of another celebrity who's been open and shared, I'm not just talking about celebrities who are accused, I mean ones who've come out and been open, then please share that in the chat. But yeah, so Selena Gomez. So I definitely have talked about her a lot on this channel because of her kidney disease. She had lupus nephritis, okay, a kidney disease that's caused by lupus, which led her to kidney failure, and she ended up getting a kidney transplant. So she's been performing and acting and doing well with this kidney transplant. But I actually didn't know that she had the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And I love how vulnerable she is in this interview where she's saying now that everyone's going to see, she's a little bit nervous, because that really is just peeling back a layer, right? So that's a lot. But just in talking about bipolar disorder, we know that it is a mental health diagnosis where patients have depression. Okay, they have symptoms of major depressive disorder, which is at least 2 weeks of having multiple symptoms, feeling very low, perhaps having anhedonia, which is the inability to feel joy, some sleep disturbance, either insomnia where you can't sleep, or hypersomnia where you're sleeping more than normal, eating changes, okay, either eating much more than you normally do, or having an anorexia and not eating much at all, being irritable, things of this nature. You can have depression, but then in order to have the diagnosis of bipolar, you have at least one episode where you have manic, is what they used to call it, the manic symptoms, where you might have flight of speech, meaning you're speaking very, very quickly, tangential thoughts, where you're talking about one thing, you're talking about a couch, and oh, that couch is so beautiful, I love the color brown, oh, other things are brown that I like, oh, I need to go pay my bills. You're having thoughts that are jumping everywhere. You might have pressured speech, so much so that if someone else tries to join the conversation, it really makes you irritable. You might start having habits that aren't your typical, like you're spending really in an irrational manner, spending money that you don't have, getting into financial ruin. And you might just, all of a sudden have delusions of grandeur where you're like, you know what? I'm going to go be a world-class basketball player. And you never picked up a basketball a day in your life. Or you're like, you know what? I'm all of a sudden going to, open 5 chains of businesses. These are some of the symptoms of, having a manic episode. So if you have one of those plus the depression, then you may have bipolar disorder. And there's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, which I get into on one of my videos right here on this YouTube channel. It's so if you click on my YouTube channel, or if you just go in the YouTube bar and search Dr. Frita bipolar disorder, then you'll see where I go into detail about bipolar disorder. So, I want y'all to please check out Selena Gomez's documentary and just please be supportive of her. And also, if you want to know more about lupus, I have a video here on lupus. Y'all got a lot of videos. I have a video here. So you look up Dr. Frita lupus. I go in and I go through having lupus explained. Shador, did anyone share any celebrities or any stories about someone living with bipolar disorder?
Yes, so DP shared a couple of celebrities. Kanye West.
Now, I have heard about that diagnosis. I don't know if he has accepted the diagnosis, but it's definitely been documented. It's been reported. I haven't heard it come out of his mouth. So if you've heard it come out of his mouth, then please circle back and let me know. And we know we've seen different behaviors that seem consistent. I'm certainly not his doctor, and I don't know. But yeah, I've heard that. I haven't heard him say it out of his mouth.
And he also mentioned Maya Campbell. You know Maya Campbell?
I don't know Maya Campbell.
Maya Campbell.
Okay.
Ressa. Hello, Ressa. She says Maurice Bernard.
Okay. Look, I guess I just don't know these folks. Oh my gosh. But I'm going to go back and look at my own live, and I'm going to see, and I'm going to certainly highlight them if they're out there, on their own sharing it. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes. Planet Life. Demi Lovato has confessed she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Now she has shared. Now Demi Lovato has shared out of her own mouth, and she's been very active as far as mental health and helping to get the stigma down. That one I've heard confirmed out of her mouth. Yes.
All right. DP, circle back. Maya Campbell is an actress or was an actress.
Okay. All right. I know one of the first ones who shared it publicly, Patty Duke. Now she was a star back like what 1950s, 1960s. Yes, I'm going way on back to the backtrack, but that was when mental health disorders really had an even larger stigma than they do now. So I remember, I really had a great appreciation from Patty Duke early on. And then there's another one, a very famous singer. We've talked about her on this show. She's come out and shared herself about her diagnosis. Anyone know this very famous singer who we talk about quite a bit? Bueller, anyone? Mariah Carey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey shared her diagnosis.
Plain Life knows everything. Plain Life chimed in and said Mariah Carey.
She heard that one too. Oh, she did get okay. Or Plain Life did get it. Yeah. And see, and again, you see her, she's extremely talented, very successful, a good mother by all accounts, all the things going on. And she's living with the diagnosis. And it's just one of those things that, again, helps to break down the stigma. So, yeah, I just always appreciate people who share. I appreciate people who share, So, of course, our goal here is we're always trying to get people to live their healthiest, happiest lives. Please make sure you click in this description because I have the PDF for you, 10 healthy habits for a better you and a better life. Click here and you can go on there and you can look at some of the habits that I use in my daily life on just trying to be healthy, not just physically healthy, but I also talk about meditation. I talk about positive self-affirmations because sometimes, you'll wake up or sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh gosh, I didn't do this on my things to do list. Oh, I'm just overwhelmed. It's never going to get done. So one of my habits is first thing I do is I tell myself all of the great things that I've accomplished, either from the day before, the week before, child. I'll reach back to 10 years ago if I have to, but something that's positive. I'll tell myself all of the things that I like about myself, and I'll hit that list first. And amazingly, it helps to diminish some of the negative, and so that's just part of that a mental health exercise I do. Remember, everything I give you on this channel is informational. It does not replace the advice of your physicians. But yeah, go ahead and check out that PDF. It's a freebie and it's something that I find to be high value, and I hope you'll find it to be high value also. All right.
Dr. Frita, I want to circle back. Risa, I misspoke. It's Risa, not Risa. I'm sorry, but Maurice Bernard. She said Maurice Bernard shares his story on Instagram. He's Sonny on General Hospital.
Oh, okay. So that's someone that was saying who shares it themselves to promote.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go and do a circle back myself and find out more. But yeah, I just think that's helpful because I know for people who are watching this live, and shouts out to those of you who are watching the replay, there are going to be people who have either the bipolar diagnosis or they're suspicious that they might have it, or they have a loved one or a child or a parent. And it's just always helpful not to be alone, especially when you see people who are living successful lives and who are not ashamed. We're not ashamed, if we get diagnosed with cancer or something else that's not our fault. The mental health disorder is not your fault either. And so I'm just looking forward to the stigma going down, down, down on that. All right. So do you know what else is not the fault of people, Shador? When they show up to doctors and they trust the doctors and sometimes don't ask that many questions, but then they end up being mistreated by the doctors, even having higher mortality. We know that Black women have a high maternal mortality. We have the highest maternal mortality compared to all other women. Well, there's been more studies out, Shador, showing that Black women are having C-sections, cesarean sections more than other women. And C-sections tend to be correlated with higher mortality. And the big question is why? So let's go ahead and roll the next clip and talk about it. And for those of you listening, if you know of anyone with a maternal mortality that you really question, put that in the chat.
Well, a new report uncovers a disturbing racial disparity when it comes to performing C-sections. Dr. Malika is here now. And doctor, some of the possible reasons are pretty surprising.
Yeah, listen to this. In a large study of nearly 1 million births at 68 hospitals in New Jersey, researchers found that obstetricians are more likely to perform unnecessary C-sections on Black mothers than white mothers. In fact, Black women overall were about 25% more likely to deliver by C-section than white women. According to the New York Times, some experts speculate that doctors may rush Black women to C-sections due to concerns about racial bias, or that Black women may be less likely to advocate for themselves if they don't want a C-section, or if they do, they may be taken seriously. The study also discovered that additional operations on Black patients were more likely to occur when operating rooms were unoccupied or otherwise sitting empty, suggesting that there may be a financial incentive for hospitals to fill their ORs. Now, let's not be confused. Unnecessary C-sections put women at risk for unnecessary complications, such as bleeding and infection and blood clots and organ damage. I had 3 C-sections. It's no walk in the park. So unless you really need it, you shouldn't get it.
See, now this infuriates me, Shador. This infuriates me. So we'll talk about this, but again, in the chat, if you know of someone, or if you yourself and you want to share have dealt with a situation around childbirth that you thought was either putting your life in danger, a loved one's life in danger, or if you've witnessed someone being mistreated and you really think there may have been a racial or a bias motivation, then go ahead and share in the chat if you choose to share in the chat. Of course, now HIP is not in effect in this chat here. Now, this is public. Okay, so whatever information you put in here, anyone can see it. So remember that. But yeah, Shador, I found this to be very disturbing. And I know that sometimes you have people who hear about the maternal mortality and Black women being more than 3 times likely in some studies to die around childbirth when you compare them with other women, specifically white women. You have some Alaskan and Native American women who are also pretty high in the maternal mortality. And sometimes they think, oh, y'all say everything is biased. Oh, y'all try to make everything about race. Oh, you're race baiting. Well, let me tell you about some of the studies that discovered this C-section, the C-sections being disproportionately given to Black women. They weren't just studying 1 or 2 or 100 or a few women, Shador. This study ranged from about 2008 to like 2017, something like that. And there were 900,000 cases studied. And in those cases, they compared women who had comparable issues. So some might say, well, if more Black women have diabetes or more have high blood pressure, then those are high risk pregnancies very often. And so maybe that's why the Black women are having more C-sections. Okay, but no. In these studies, they compared apples to apples, women who had the same diagnoses, similar ages, similar risk factors. And even still, when you compared and you kind of corrected for all the variables, they still found that Black women were more likely to be sent off to have the C-sections. So in the comments also, if y'all have anything where y'all think that you know why they may have been sent to the C-sections, like why would Black women be sent to C-sections more often, then you can give me your thoughts on that. But just to talk about it in general, C-sections. Definitely, there are times when C-sections are necessary. Certainly, sometimes with multiple births, a C-section might be necessary. For my twins, it was medically necessary for me to have a C-section. There's no question about that. And of course, I have the advantage of being a physician to really be able to listen to all the pros and cons and to have an understanding. But you can imagine if you're someone who does not have that same level of education and you just blindly trust the doctor and you don't ask questions, then you may be sent to have a C-section. You don't really understand why, but you just listen to your doctor and you just go. So we know that there is a discrepancy in sometimes in either education or what's perceived as being the education level. There are studies that show that Black women actually are the most highly educated people in the United States. But oftentimes when Black women go to the hospital, there is an implicit bias and a systemic bias that many will experience where it's assumed that they don't have the education and all the details aren't explained. And if you have someone who's sitting there who just listens, then they'll go to the doctor. And the study actually suggests that in many cases, Black women tend to be less likely to question the authority. I don't know. Not a lot of the Black women I know question all the authority, but this is just one of the things that they found in the study. And getting back to the education level, Shador, I'll share. When I had my first child, now she was not a C-section, she was a natural birth, but I was so set on being humble. Okay. So I went into the hospital, and of course, I was much younger then. Oh, I was young and beautiful then. But I was much younger then. And so, so I looked young. I had my hair in braids, bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair. So I went in, didn't tell them I was a doctor. My regular doctor wasn't on call. And do you know that I received a treatment that just was not proper? And when it was time for me to get out of the hospital, 48 hours when insurance was up, those healthcare providers were trying to just push me out of the hospital, even though I was actually having complications. And so, I was explaining the complications I was having. They weren't listening. It got to the point where I had to go ahead and start spitting out the medical terms, talking about my symptoms, talking about the tachycardia, talking about the fatigue. I had to speak in medical terms, and then they listened. And so I got a first-hand look at when I was perceived as just being this round-faced young Black girl who apparently they must not have thought was very intelligent. They were trying to push me out of the hospital. And had I been discharged, there's a great chance that I would not be alive today. So firsthand, I got a chance to witness some of the maltreatment that many of the Black women, many of us experience. It's a real thing. It's not just people crying wolf. I experienced it myself. At any rate, for C-sections, there are a couple of things that were also found in the study. So C-sections can be associated with more complications. You can get infection, you can have, bladder issues, you can have intestinal issues. There can be complications where you have to go back and be readmitted to the hospital. And, as she mentioned in the study, or in the clip that we saw, there was an association, at least in some segments of the study, where when the operating rooms were open, that's when you had more C-sections. That's pretty scary, because we know that there is a greater reimbursement for the surgery of a C-section as opposed to a natural childbirth. In some cases, C-sections may cause a billing of $22,000, whereas just a natural vaginal childbirth has a billing of $12,000. I would certainly hope that there's not the type of a financial incentive, but the study is showing, some things that are comparing. Bottom line, it's important for you to advocate for yourself. I don't care if you're not a doctor, not a nurse, not a healthcare person. You have the right to ask questions until you understand. If you don't think that a C-section is necessary, you ask the questions, you get someone in there to advocate for you or with you. There's another thing, Shadora, a lot of people will have doulas or the birthing agents. Well, doulas are not covered by Medicaid. The people who are there to help you, the coaching, and to oftentimes there's been an association with a decreased maternal mortality when you have a doula, your own personal advocate there. It's not covered by Medicaid, which can disproportionately, mean that many Black women don't have that extra access to help them with maternal mortality. So you advocate for yourselves, advocate for your loved ones. The Black maternal mortality is a huge thing. And now we're seeing that there's been some correlation with C-sections. Anyone in the comments talking about C-section, Shador, or just Black maternal mortality?
Yeah, so DP has a couple of questions. Is there an increased risk of life-threatening blood clots after a C-section? And do C-sections make it more difficult to have more children?
Those are some good questions. Okay, so real quickly, and then, and everybody else get your questions together, because we're going to have, time for a few questions at the end of this Q&A, but then we have a full Q&A for members only after this live ends. Then there's a special link if you join the membership. Click the link in the description to join the membership and to join us for the full, Q&A right after. But okay, so is there an increase in blood clots? Well, here's the thing. One of the great risks for blood clots after having a baby is when a mother is immobile or sedentary, right? The less you're moving around, the more you're in the bed, the more likely that blood is to pool in the veins, right? To lead to a blood clot or a deep venous thrombosis. Well, you can imagine if you had a surgery, a C-section, where literally there is an incision all through the layers of your abdomen. Well, you are going to be less mobile than if you have a vaginal delivery. You're more likely to heal more quickly with the vaginal delivery. So theoretically, that's a greater risk factor by being more sedentary after having the C-section. So that could put you post-operatively after the surgery at a higher risk for blood clots. Okay, what was the other question, Shador?
Yes, the other question was, do they do C-sections make it more difficult to have more children?
Okay, so once you've had a C-section, if you have heavy scarring in the uterus, certainly if you had complications as far as an infection, then it might be more difficult to have a vaginal birth or a natural birth. They call those VBAC, vaginal births after C-section. And you have a lot of physicians who will discourage you from having a vaginal birth because they're scared that you'll have a complication, like the uterus might bust open, it might rupture. But you really can, in many cases, have a VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section, with a physician you trust who just really lays it out, the risks, the benefits, But yes, theoretically, it would be more difficult to have a vaginal birth after a C-section. There's a certain complications you have to look out for. And then again, if you had an infection or some type of a complication after the C-section, it could theoretically make, a portion of the uterine lining, the inside of the womb, it could make it so that an egg is less likely to implant. So there are some complications that could occur after a C-section that perhaps would not occur if you're just having the vaginal birth. Good questions.
Yeah. And Planet Life asks, why do some women not survive after a C-section?
Well, just because more surgical complications. You have women who might get infected. You have women where there might be nicks and they have hemorrhage. You're much more likely to have a hemorrhage or bleeding out after a C-section than from a vaginal delivery. So that's a very high risk, hemorrhage, bleeding out. And, oh my gosh, Judge Hatchett has been very open. Her daughter-in-law, beautiful young lady, highly educated lady. So her daughter-in-law, the wife of her son, had a C-section, was having complications. The on-call physician apparently was very delayed in coming in, and she ended up losing her life, and reportedly from hemorrhaging out, bleeding out from a C-section. So that's one of the big things. And then, just infection, other issues. You can have problems with the anesthesia, all types of complications, because it is a surgery, right? And all surgeries have risks. So having the surgery of a C-section does cause an increased risk in general than having the natural vaginal birth. It is necessary sometimes. Again, it's necessary sometimes. So I'm not saying that all C-sections are a hoax, but when you look at the huge disproportionate number of C-sections being much greater in Black women compared to other women, then you have to pause and look and make sure that we tackle any implicit bias where it sits. Make sure y'all give this a thumbs up. Please give us a like, share this video. It lets YouTube know that we're here and that we're sharing evidence-based information. As we get into this last topic, we'll hit that topic and then we'll end this live. And again, we're going to go to our members only live. Go ahead, y'all. It's not too late. Hit that members only, not only to have the members only lives, but also I have some content and I'll continue to give content just for my members, for those who want to join the Dr. Frita community. Don't worry. I'm still going to give you this same content. We're always going to have, our Medical Mondays and our good videos. So you're not going to lose anything. But if you want a little bit of extra icing on the cake, then come on, join us for the members only. And also remember, so even with the members only, all the members are going to be invited for the members only live. But if you really want to have a one-on-one consultation with me for some really private information where I can get your full history and give you my medical advice on that, then make sure you click the link in the description for my telehealth concierge service. We've been having really great success with this. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, we can set up the telehealth visit and you can have one-on-one time with me. Not only am I board certified in nephrology, meaning I'm a kidney doctor and a high blood pressure doctor, I have also been board certified in pediatrics. I've been board certified in internal medicine. I've been board certified in obesity medicine. So I'll really be able to give you a nice 360 view on just about any medical problem. So yeah, make sure you click that link in that description. All right, Shador, let's move on to our last topic before we answer a couple of questions here and then shut this down and go on to our members only. Y'all know we're about to talk about Diddy. I'm gonna tell you the truth. We're talking about it, we're seeing it everywhere, we're seeing it in the news, but I'm yet to be desensitized. He, P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs was someone who, was really revered in the community as someone who, a Black male billionaire, trendsetter, fashion icon, all these different businesses, fashion, Ciroc, you name it, a father. He calls himself love, love, brother love, all this positive stuff. And now, at least based on these indictments, and even some of the things we've seen with our own eyes, like, the way that he had the physical assault on Cassie. And I won't even don't think I have to say allegedly, because he actually came back and apologized for the physical assault. And now we're hearing more and more. But linking it to health, because y'all know here we like to try to make sure we take the headlines and we use them for good. It's been reported that he was on a hunger strike, that he wasn't eating. I don't know, but this is what was reported. And so I just want to play this clip, just a little portion of it, and then we'll talk about hunger strikes and what that really means.
Comes via our friend Larry Levine, who has a source close to the investigation. Larry is a former federal prisoner himself, served time at 11 institutions across 5 states, and is founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. He advises people who are about to face the same plight, and he joins me now live. Okay, Larry, spill the tea. What are you hearing about Diddy's eating?
Well, I got an inside source there at MDC, and if they knew who it was, they'd really plot. When people go into custody, they have anxiety, they're depressed, a lot of things go through their mind. And one of the things they do is they stop eating. They lose a lot of weight. Look at somebody coming out of prison. They look like a POW or something, but they've been through the ringer. Now, there's a collateral issue that may be here. Look what happened to Jeff Epstein. I got people every day saying, you think they're going to Epstein him? And I go, well, I really don't know. But they can't have this guy do a suicide. It would look kind of funny. Now, imagine if somebody got to one of the correctional officers, and this could happen. They don't make a lot of money. And there's people out there that he has things on that do have a substantial amount of money. Imagine if someone paid someone off on the inside to actually poison his food, give him a heart attack, and he dies. And no one would really think anything of it. So that may be one of the reasons he's not eating. He's really, really paranoid. He's really, really scared. He doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know who to trust or what to believe. Then he had a religious visit also, and a dietitian come talk to him. Now, there's a possibility that he wants to go on a kosher diet. It's prepared a little bit differently. It's a religious diet. That could be another aspect as well. But I remember when I first went into custody at MDC Los Angeles, and I didn't eat for a couple of days, but this guy's been there about a week now. So he should be in a routine. And there's just so much, Ashley, there is so much disinformation that comes out. Like he has to get up at 6 o'clock to make his bed and mop his cell. That's for a regular housing unit at MDC. He's not getting out.
Okay. The person who's talking, I don't believe he has any inside information, it's just except for he's been on the inside, as they said, like 11 facilities in 5 states. But the hunger strike is something that has been reported. I don't know how many days. I don't know the truth to it, but so I will say allegedly, but that is something that's been reported in mainstream media, that at least at one point Diddy was not eating. So let's just talk about hunger strikes in general and what happens to the body with the hunger strike. So we know that historically, hunger strikes have been oftentimes for political reasons. We know, I think in 1981, there was the Irish hunger strike. And then even for the women's rights movement, suffragists often would enact hunger strikes in order to for the movement of women having equal rights, women having voting rights. And back then, when the suffragists were having the hunger strikes, many times they would give them force feeding, okay, which when you force feed someone who hasn't eaten in days, there's something called a refeeding syndrome, which can actually be fatal as well. But you can imagine politically, they just didn't want some of these suffragists to lose their lives over the movement, being even greater martyrs and making all of the men who wouldn't give women's rights look even worse. But you'll see in history, you see different places that there have been hunger strikes. Well, here's what happens in a hunger strike. So for the first 3 days of not having food, the body lives off of your glucose stores, your sugar stores, right? But after that, and once the glucose stores start to be depleted, well, then the liver kicks in and you go into ketosis and your body starts using up fat stores. Okay, so you've got the fat stores, excess fat being used. But eventually the excess fat, well, that's going to be used up. So next, the body really goes into a starvation mode and it gets desperate for nutrition. And so it starts taking nutrients from wherever it can, from muscles, right? From vital organs, even from the bone marrow. And once it starts taking from the bone marrow, that's when you really can be close to your life being over. Okay. So these are kind of the steps of what happens when someone's in a hunger strike. Typically, the average person is at risk for losing their life from a hunger strike after they've lost anywhere from 40 to 60% of their original weight that they were before the hunger strike. And for the average person, this risk of losing your life from a hunger strike will happen after 60 days, like 60 to 72 days. That's when there's a very high risk of losing one's life from a hunger strike. And of course, people who have excess, even more fat on their bodies, people who are living with being overweight, living with obesity, may be able to go longer than someone of an average weight. So that's just kind of the biology of what happens in a hunger strike. But here's something, that's really little known. I don't know if that's what I just shared. I don't know if those are known facts or not. But here's something that I do realize is something that is not very popular knowledge. And that is the refeeding syndrome. Put a 3 in the chat if you've heard of refeeding syndrome before. So with refeeding syndrome, that's when a person who has been without food, who's been starving, who's had malnutrition, when they are fed, but they're fed either too quickly or they're not fed the proper nutrients that match their level of malnutrition. And you can actually have a person lose their life based on being refed because the electrolytes can be shifted very rapidly and it can cause an issue. I know there's one story of one of the suffragists, like the suffragist I was talking about, where she was being force fed after having starved, after being on a hunger strike, and she ended up having a heart attack, reportedly, which is something that really could happen with a major electrolyte shift. So here's what happens. When the body has gone through a hunger strike, right, you start to lose a lot of nutrients, right? The way that your metabolism works differs. The metabolism is going to slow down typically by at least 20%. And you can have a depletion of phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, among other electrolytes. Well, so you're metabolizing those differently. Once a person is refed and you're refed too quickly and you're not able to metabolize the way that you used to, you can get major shifts in electrolyte abnormalities in the phosphorus, in the potassium, in the magnesium, and it can lead to different issues. It can lead to seizures. It can lead to heart attacks. It can lead to all kinds of life-threatening issues. And so when someone's been on a hunger strike, like in prison, if indeed it's true that Diddy's going on a hunger strike, if it's just a couple days, maybe even less than 7 days, that might not be an issue. But if we get to where it's a matter of weeks and he gets into that point of a malnutrition, his body's in starvation mode, they have to be very careful and very scientific in the manner in which they refeed him. Again, I don't know the true details of Diddy. This is just something that has been reported. All right. Anyone familiar with refeeding syndrome or any comments? If not, we'll just go ahead and move on to our last couple minutes of a quick Q&A here, and then we'll turn this live off and go to the members only. Make sure if you want to join us for this next Q&A, you become a member, click the link in the description. And meanwhile, does anyone have any comments on this or any quick questions before we close Shador?
Yeah, so DP has heard of the refeeding process. Okay. And DP also asked, autophagy is beneficial to a degree, isn't it? But that's just about 48-hour mark.
Oh, so if you're talking about people who are doing fasting, intermittent fasting, or if you're going, like you said, 48 hours, a couple of days where you're just maybe drinking water. And, we know that we have all types of diets, such as a diet where people actually want to go into ketosis. When done, especially under physician supervision, there are ways where that can help you to lose excess fat, especially if you're living with being overweight or living with obesity. But yeah, what I'm going into is where we're talking about days and days and weeks. So I'm way past any type of intermittent fasting. I'm way past a couple of days of juicing with minimal protein. But yeah, but even for what you're describing, I would still say consult with your physician because it's not going to be good for everyone. Yeah.
All right. I have a member question from Delisha.
Hi.
How do you get rid of lower belly? So lower belly fat, maybe.
Oh my gosh. I hope y'all watch The View because Wanda Sykes was on The View the other day, and she was talking about lower belly fat. She was specifically talking about postmenopausal belly fat and how she named her belly roll. She named it Esther because she said it needed a good, strong name because it wasn't going anywhere.
Okay.
And so here's the thing about lower belly fat. When you are doing exercises, and of course, you can, if you have belly fat and then you have fat that's excess, in general on your body, then the different things that you do, calorie deficit, exercise, all of those things, low carbohydrates, high, plant-based diet, mostly healthy protein, all those things are going to help you lose fat in general. But it is not possible to really significantly just lose targeted weight in the belly. You'd be losing weight all over, and depending on the way your body's fat deposits, there are people even who are thin. I know you've seen thin folks who just happen to have bellies. So then it's like, okay, well, how about doing exercises? Yes, you can do sit-ups, you can do different abdominal exercises to help tighten the muscle, but truth be told, just the targeted fat loss from exercise, from dieting, it's not likely to take away the belly fat, unfortunately. And again, consult with your physician, which is why you see a lot of women who actually will go into having the liposuction. I'm not suggesting that for you, but I'm saying consult with their physician, because if I'm being honest, if you're someone and that's your shape, or if you've, had a couple kids, or if you've kind of gotten older, you gotten the dad bod, as they said, then sometimes that's just where the fat distributes. But certainly making sure you maintain a healthy weight in general, doing the proper diet, doing the proper exercise, that will help you to lose weight in general. But if you're down to a healthy weight already and you still have excess abdominal fat, then another thing you want to do when you consult with your physician is find out if you're having any insulin resistance. Okay. Make sure they check your hemoglobin A1C, and you'll want to make sure you eat foods that will help to increase your insulin sensitivity. Okay. And make sure that you're not someone who's pre-diabetic or at risk for diabetes. That's another thing. And also you want to check to make sure that the steroid or cortisol levels in your body are within normal limits. If you have an increased cortisol level, then that can sometimes cause you to gain weight, specifically in the belly. So make sure you have a good overall health, normal cortisol levels, normal insulin sensitivity, at a healthy body weight. If you've done all of those things and still the fat is just distributing there, then there is a possibility that just might be your shape, and you might have an Esther or Beulah. Hillary Clinton said that she named her belly roll Beulah, which, yeah, I know that's kind of off topic, but it's on topic, because these are ladies who are not overweight, and as they've gotten postmenopausal, that weight has just gotten there. But I don't want to give you some kind of a fake magic bullet. This is how that belly fat disappears, because sometimes it is very difficult for it to be removed unless there's some type of a procedure. That's just what it is.
Dr. Frita, thanks, Dr. Frita. Special shout out to new members, Steel Pooh.
Hey, thank you. Oh, let me see you in just a couple seconds. And members only. We're about to do our live Q&A.
And speaking of, Sienna wants to know, is your membership free?
You will look in the description. It's a $10 membership. You'll get all the information when you click the link. This is just for those who want that little extra time with me, where there's a smaller group of people. But no, it's not free.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this Medical Monday. Please make sure you hit the like and the subscribe on your way out of the door. And for those of you who are members, I'm about to see you right now. Click on over to the members only link, and we're about to answer some of your questions. Just us, the members only. All right. Thank y'all for joining us. And for everyone else, I'll see y'all next Monday on Medical Monday.